Hello, it's Heather from the Sunshine and Powercuts podcast. In association with Geeks Rising, from the 9th to the 16th of March, or 10th to the 17th if you're here in New Zealand, 2019, we are hosting the first 2019 Sunshine Summit. It's a week of live streams with amazing content creators and the theme of celebrating connections. All of the details for the upcoming summit, as well as replays from our previous events and where the live streams will be happening, can be found at sunshinesummit.live. A huge thank you to the patrons of Sunshine and Powercuts for making that possible. So check it out, and if you know the guests, we'd love for you to come and celebrate with us. And if they are new to you, come along, learn more about them, and we look forward to celebrating connections with you.
Beginning ODO podcast in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to, because I do that, welcome to the ODO podcast. It's guest time. And like I said, this month, super awesome, like, queen of all my guests, because she's the most awesome person in the world, is Heather Welch from Sunshine and Powercuts. She's back already, because why not? Because for some reason, she's friends with me and is willing to come on the show. But with a reason this time. We are talking about the Sunshine Summit, the Spring Sunshine Summit. Okay, I have to ask first. Is it technically spring or is it autumn?
It'll be autumn, yeah.
Yeah, it's all complicated because you're all around the world. You're as far away as you can be.
Equators and hemispheres, yeah.
New Zealand and all of that. I mean, look on a map. It's not even there. I mean, New Zealand doesn't exist. It's a myth. Anyway, but the March, I guess I keep saying spring because here it's spring, but it's pretty much, it's March because that's not changing. Unless it's not March in New Zealand, then that's a whole other thing. Yeah. Time zones, calendars. It's March in New Zealand, right?
It will be, yeah.
So, the March 2019 Sunshine Summit. And yeah, this is now the third event, and I was part of the first two. I'm not doing this one because there's only so many spaces available, and seriously, if you didn't tell people no that have been around like the whole time like me, you'd never have room for anybody new. Because I'm pretty sure everybody's totally willing to come back. They're like, hey, no, I want in. I'm like, well, there's no room for any new people. So there's a lot of new people this time around. A few familiar faces. And then a lot of new ones, which is really cool.
Yeah. Firstly, I want to say thank you so much for having me again, Adam. And we did have a purpose for last time because it was your end of NaNoPodMo. And that was exciting to celebrate that with you.
Yeah. That was fun. And I survived.
Yeah, you did. And it was really cool to be on then. And thank you so much for last year featuring pretty much all of the Sunshine Summit guests in the lead up to it, because you did like little clip reviews of each of the guests, which was amazing. And for being on both of them in March and August.
And it's so much fun. And I love just getting to talk to you anyway, in a general sense. Yeah. Sidebar. It's raining a lot here right now. If I can't cut the thunder and lightning and dog barking out of this, you understand why.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's quite good relying on weather, isn't it, Adam? Like I do that all the time. And like the weather is just bringing it.
The weather is your best friend. It's like, I need, it's cloudy and dark and pouring down rain and thunder and lightning. So what do I bring? I bring you a walking ray of sunshine onto the show today.
Thank you.
Was that cheesy enough for everybody else out there? Anybody else just feel like they're going to throw up a little bit? That was just too damn sweet.
Yeah, I have a feeling that we'll have some comments afterwards because I think that happened last time. Because, yeah, too many compliments, Adam. You're way too nice. Hashtag nice guy, Adam.
Yeah. Sometimes. And then you do some stupid stuff and you get yourself in the news, and then I just have to rip you a new one because I'm not always nice. But I'm nice to people that aren't being stupid. Cool. That's it.
I'll try not to be stupid.
Or like, pancake peeps or something like that. No. But enough about my weirdness. We're here for you because at this point I don't have, for the most of it, I don't have information on all of the guests for the summit for this time. And there's so many new people. I no clue who they are. I was mostly familiar with a lot of the guests in the past summits, so it was a lot easier for me to talk about them and cover them and do a lot more of that. This time, I'd probably a good 75% of them I don't know.
Yeah.
And you actually have a couple, actually, like, basically local guests to you out there in the islands.
Down under, yeah. It's very exciting this time. And that, I mean, like, as much as I loved having you on both of them, it's not that I don't want you to be a part of this one this time, but it is the thing where I want to open it up to new people. And I do have Paul Chomo as my first guest opening it up, and he is a returning guest. He was on March 2018 and he's back for March 2019. So I've also got Nick Haskins, who's going to be later in the week, and he was a guest in March last year and is coming back because we're going to talk about live stream for the cure. So there are a couple of returning ones, and then there are some really awesome new ones that I'm excited to share with people because they've got interesting content and it's all very different. We're not in the same genre of anything. We've got Ducky, who is a YouTube creator. He's creating Let's Plays for YouTube, and he's also been live streaming on Twitch. And he's got something else in the pipeline, which I can't announce yet because it's not official. But yeah, it's just, there are so many people doing so many different amazing things, and they make a whole bunch of different connections along the way. And that's what I'm really, really passionate about with the Sunshine Summit, is being able to hear their stories and share that with different audiences who might not know them, or just to celebrate with those who do know them, so that like they can ask us questions and get to know us. And
yeah, I mean, that's really kind of the point of this all is establishing and celebrating those connections. And there's only so much time you have to have, so many guests. And you were saying before that you'd had the first time last March, the first day you had 3 different guests on, and it starts getting a little tight, and you just suddenly, there's only so much time you can prepare and so much you can really, because you've got to be familiar with your guests. And so I think that's why when I have people come on here, it's so far all been friends. It's all people that I know you. It's really easy for me to have a conversation and be cool, but it's harder when you're not as familiar. So you have to, podcast guest 101, you have to be familiar with your guest. And so, yeah, I totally understand. You kind of have, you've thinned it out a little bit the second time, and you've got fewer guests this time, but it kind of works out because it was like you were saying before, people have lives. You have a life outside of this. And the summit does take a big chunk of time and energy to execute. I mean, I've lost count of how many people or just talk about the summit and just the expanse of it, because it's such a big event, and the amount of work that has to go into a week of live streams with all these guests and getting it all organized and done. And all of it is, there's so much work involved. And for you to have started this before you had even been podcasting a year, I mean, you just dove headfirst into it, and you've stepped it up every time. More guests, bigger stuff, upgrade I think the first time we did it using the Google Hangouts, and and then you went in what was it? August. In August, when you did that, and you switched over, and we're doing with OBS and with all the happy panels and the greetings screens and all of the other stuff that you were doing in there live and all that, like so much extra production you've added in, and and now you're partnered in with Geeks Rising with Bandrew Scott, who also is on the first two and is not on there this time. But I imagine he's going to have his fingers in there, kind of behind the scenes, helping from a technical perspective.
What it is because Sunshine and Powercuts joined the Geeks Rising network. There is, you can find my podcast over on geeksrising.com. And so we've got a banner there that has the Sunshine Summit details, and we can click through and that. So it's more just recognition that Sunshine and Powercuts is part of Geeks Rising. He did help with one part, so I'm looking forward to sharing that. But yeah, it's still me. And I had one person help me with some of the visual layouts that I have as well. The eldest bro from the Discord has helped me with some of those. So that's my help that I've had.
Because he's, I mean, I always look at him as I guess between Bandrew and then SP, I look at them as kind of the technical brain trust to go to as if you have a technical question between YouTube based stuff and podcast stuff, you're probably going to be able to get it answered by one of them. And
yeah, SB and SJ or Stephen John Drew, they are amazing. Like yesterday I tuned into their live recording of Better Podcasting, and I love to catch them when they record live because that's been such a huge inspiration for me doing the Sunshine Summit, was being able to see them record live, see how it works, see the level of detail that Stephen John Drew puts into his production. And it was inspiring because you got to see the mistakes and the tricky technical things and the issues that happen behind the scenes. And it also helps make me show up for it. And there's lots of amazing information on podcasting there, but just the way that they do it was really inspiring. And I've learned a lot from observing them and just being a part of their live chat and seeing the process. So yeah, I've
tried to tune into them live a couple of times. For me, it's much more a case of everybody seems to do their live shows either when I'm asleep or I'm at work. And I think they are, their show starts while I'm driving to work. So it's a little more difficult to be there live and participate. Much like other shows, like Ask the Podcast Coach on Saturday mornings. I'd love to be there for that show live, but in my case, that's about 8 a.m. on a Saturday, and it's one of the few days out of the week that I can sleep in. So I'm going to take it. And around here, 8 a.m. is sleeping in. So
it works out to be like 4 o'clock in the morning my time. I'm never going to make one of those live, really, I think. I think I tried to see, I set in a reminder to catch Paul Chomo live when he was eating scorpions, and I missed that because I slept through my alarm. So
that was a fun one. No scorpions. So let's go through some of the guests. I guess I will start off with the my guests that are returning for you. Like you just mentioned, Paul Chomo from Varmints is going to be coming back. At this point, if you listen to me and you don't know who Paul Chomo is, what? But he is one of the hosts of the Varmints podcast. They talk about animals, and they are very much not animal experts. And I've heard Paul say on multiple occasions, he is in no way an animal expert. He just likes animals and thought it would be a cool concept for a show. Really simple. Mm-hmm. And of course, last month's guest here, Chris Osborne from Play Comics and the Meddling Kids podcast.
Yeah, Paul's on the first day. He's helping me open it, and Chris is on the last day. He's helping me close it out. Chris is my second to last guest. I've got 2 on finale day, but he is first up on finale day, which is exciting.
And they are both really awesome. And so I'm I'm looking forward to catching their segments and, well, I mean, all of it, because I do everything I can to be in there for all of them, if at all possible, because again, time zones. Some of them run when I'm working or maybe like picking up the kids from school. Oh, and I forgot about Nick Haskins from Epic Film Guy Nick and Restaurant podcast. And I believe Nick was just there in the March Summit last year, right?
Yeah.
And his big cooking demo and his crazy burgers last time.
Yeah, the Sunshine Burgers, that was awesome. They were Irish inspired, which was cool because it was in the lead up to St. Patrick's Day. And he did an epic job that time, but we're not cooking this time round. Just as a heads up.
Yeah, well, because he's, he'd be here. I say here. He'll be on kind of promoting the live stream for The Cure 3.0. I have not heard what they're calling it this time. I know he was saying he wanted to come up with a good, solid name for it, rather than just, live stream for The Cure 3. So,
yeah.
Which, why not? Or you could say it's the 3rd annual live stream for The Cure. And yeah, you don't have to have a fancy name.
Yeah, I quite like it.
Jerry's Kids doesn't have a fancy name.
I think it's easier to recall then.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't want it to have like a weird name, like, 3 strikes in bowling is a turkey. It doesn't need a funny name. Just be the 3rd live stream for The Cure. 3rd annual. That tells you it's a commitment to. That's the 3rd annual live stream for The Cure. Supporting the cancer research, I used to have it.
Yeah, the Cancer Research Institute. Yeah.
Cancer Research Institute. Like suddenly the CRI stood out in my mind and was like, damn, words are hard.
Words are hard.
And yeah, keep it simple. It's a big ass charity event. Simple enough.
Yeah.
That's also one I don't think I'm participating in this year. It gets to be tricky. And I think it's the same with the Sunshine Summit when you're doing all these live streams, and in their case, they're doing, I think he said they're trying for 48 hours across the weekend. It's so much. They just keep upping that every year, and they want more guests and more segments and raising the bar for that. I think they are saying they're shooting for 7,000 to raise this year.
7.5, I think.
Yeah, 7.5. So, and there's so much going on with those guys, and that event gets bigger and bigger. And I want to see it get bigger and bigger. And I need to reach out to Nick to have him on here ahead of that. So that whole thing of suddenly having guests on here, I need to reach out to people because I know people that do stuff like you come on because you do this awesome thing and bring all these people together, and you do it twice a year. At least at this point, you're doing it twice a year, and bring all these people together just because you're awesome and friendly and everybody loves you. It's kind of it.
Just because everyone loves me. I think that's why I don't even know, that might be why they've joined me for it, but I'm very grateful that they all want to be a part. And it is a little bit like with the naming, just going back to the naming thing, the Sunshine Summit, there's 2 of them a year. And so they're just the March and the August Sunshine Summit of whatever year it is, which keeps it simple. And so in March last year, I had 2 guests on the first day last year in March, but I did that through Google Hangouts, and that was the easiest way to sort of get stuck into it and give it a go with live streaming, because there's a lot to keep track of when you're doing it. And then in August, I wanted to make it look a bit more professional and have a bit more sort of like an introduction to it rather than just be a straight, hello, we're live. Hey, can you hear me? Kind of thing. Yeah.
And there was a lot of that in that first one of the, okay, are we on? Okay. Are we okay, here we are. Yeah.
Hopefully we're coming in live on YouTube is what I think I said throughout the summit in March.
That's about me anytime I have to do something live. That's why I don't. Well, that and not being photogenic, but that's a whole other thing.
But I like the thing that live gives, though, when like you can do it and people can turn up and they can interact in the live chat. And we're sharing important information because everyone's got a story of how they got where they are. You might not necessarily know it because they might not cover it in their podcast or the content that they make. And then you can learn from how they made connections or how they got over challenges that they had, and then sort of feel like you're not alone because people are experiencing the same thing, and maybe get some tips and tricks on what they did and take that forward. So that's really exciting. And then this time round, we've got a home for the Sunshine Summit, and that's probably one of the most exciting things is having a place where everyone can come to that's not
youtube.com/long-coded URL.
Yeah.
sunshinesummit.live, which is really awesome. And I still need to go and redirect all the links. Well, besides the fact that I have a designated page that I built on my website for it, like, I really, basically everything that I have there, you now have at sunshinesummit.live. So I don't need to have my designated page necessarily. So I just need to re-forward all of those links over to you, so you can get the web page credit.
Wow. I appreciate that, Adam. Like I was saying earlier, you did all the reviews of everybody, but then you linked it all on your website, and that was amazing. You've been an incredible support throughout everything that I've done, but the Sunshine Summit particularly, and all the guests. And that helps make connections too, because when people listen to your podcast, they could hear last year about the guests that I had, and you gave your review of them, and then you had it there. So in case people came by your website, they could check it out and they'd go to the YouTube videos. And yeah, it really means a lot to me that you did that. And because you're a patron of Sunshine and Powercuts, your help helped me get sunshinesummit.live. So thank you so much.
And that's if I could, I would totally pull an Emily and just buy it for you and hold it. But I think speaking of the live stream for the cure, I remember in the first live stream for the cure, Emily Prokop, during a segment, bought livestreamforthecure.com for them because they hadn't secured it yet. And she bought it for them live during the event. And then, now it is the home for the live stream for the cure. But yeah,
that was awesome. That was really, really cool.
Is just typical Emily, but it's just something she does.
Yeah.
But all of that, let's get back to all of the other guests that I don't know. Well, I'm familiar with them, like Ducky. I'm familiar with from your Discord server, and a few of the others. But let's get into more of them that I haven't already talked about enough.
Yeah. So Ducky is, like I was saying, a YouTube creator. He does the YouTube videos. They're let's plays of games that he's playing, and he's been live streaming them to Twitch. And he's really interesting because he has a duck as his character. So his one's going to be interesting because it's going to veer off the kind of the format that we're used to for the summit, but it's still going to be amazing. And he may have his wife, Mrs. Angry Ducky, as well. So it'll be very cool to talk to her because she's got an amazing connection with art.
And the funny thing about Ducky is that he is somebody who kind of likes his anonymity, it seems. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, he leans hard into the ducks, and it reminds me of on a Ducky on NCIS. If for no other reason, they call him Ducky. The guy's name is Donald Mallard. Like, what this is like your bypass for just naming him Donald Duck. We're just going to use the technical term, but I don't know. Whenever I think of Ducky, I have to. My brain kind of clicks back to that. It's like it's Ducky. It's just so.
Yeah. So the ducks will be on the live stream, which would be cool. Yep. And then we've got Jim Collison on the afternoon of day 2. So Ducky's on day 2. Jim Collison's in the afternoon for me, evening in Eastern US time. And I met him through Stargate Pioneer. So Stargate Pioneer introduced me to Jim as a possible potential guest on the Home Gadget Geeks show that Jim does and to talk about the off-grid stuff. So that was a really cool connection that I had there. And yeah, I'm looking forward to chatting with him about tech and gadgets and geeky stuff.
And I remember actually listening to that one live because I remember like you were saying, hey, you were going to be on Home Gadget Geeks. I'm familiar with the show. I'm familiar with Jim Collison because he co-hosts Ask the Podcast Coach with Dave Jackson on Saturday mornings. And so I'm familiar with him, but I had never listened to the show. And of course, it's like, it's not necessarily my type of thing, but like, hey, it's kind of like you said, when you do a thing, I support you in your thing. So I think I've listened to just about every interview of anything you've done. And so it's like, hey, you're on Home Gadget Geeks. So I was there, live with you for that Home Gadget Geeks. And Jim Collison is a cool guy. And I know that primarily from listening to him on Ask the Podcast Coach. He's a really grounded dude. But he's a really cool, friendly guy. I mean, his website is averageguy.tv. It's about being, the average guy and relating to people. I mean, he starts every morning with a tweet about the weather, just as a general icebreaker to the world and to spark conversation. So, I mean, he's just that kind of guy. And it's going to be really cool to see him on there.
Yeah, it was awesome that you were in the live chat for that one because it was one of my first few live guest appearances. And so it's always awesome to have people who, to see them in the live chat and feel a bit more confident that you're talking to them.
I don't see why anybody would be more confident with me in the room. It just means you're going to get trolled.
You haven't trolled me, though, have you?
I think you're probably the only person I don't troll.
There you go.
I don't know why.
Thank you.
So let's see. Who else do we have?
We've got Stephanie Fuccio on day 3, and I'm really, really looking forward to talking to her. She hosts 3 kind of podcasts, and she's doing PodTubes, which is podcast to YouTube or YouTube to podcast, something like that. She's got Changing Scripts, Virtual Expats, and the Expat Rewind, and she is an expat. She's an American who's been living overseas for a long time now, and she's currently based in China. And so it's going to be awesome talking to her about travel and being an expat and the connections that you make when you leave your home country and go somewhere else with different cultures and languages and all that kind of stuff. So I'm very excited to talk to her.
And the more I'm going through your guest list, the more I'm realizing I am familiar with them. And I remember I've kind of connected with her a while back. I forget what it was exactly.
International Podcast Day.
That was it. Yeah. It's like so many connections, and I can't keep them all straight.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you do half the time.
That's going to come up, I think, and I'm holding that kind of idea for Chris's segment on the finale day, because we actually had a chat about that recently, about the origin story of connections. So I'm looking forward to sharing that there. But yeah, I met Stephanie. I came across her through International Podcast Day last year when I did my guest spot there. Yeah. And then on the next day, we've got Wynne Kelly Charles, and she has the Ask Wynne podcast. She's an author, and she's doing amazing things, trying to raise awareness about cerebral palsy and just connecting with people who are doing awesome things and sharing their stories as well through the Ask Wynne podcast. So she's had a lot of guests on, and going to talk to her about how she's made all those connections. And yeah.
Wynne is another one of those where, again, I'm realizing I was invited to be on her show some time back, and it was very much a case of I just could not work it out, especially back at that time about scheduling and the keeping kids and animals and all of that in line in order to be able to record with her. That was almost 2 years ago now, but I hear her a lot. Keep going back to Dave Jackson, but I hear her come up a lot with the School of Podcasting. And I think she was actually a student at School of Podcasting. But I know you had been on there, and Emily has been on there. There's a few other pod friends of mine who have been on her show. And I sound like a broken record. It's going to be interesting to see all of the different guests that I don't know directly.
Mm-hmm. That's what it's all about too. That's exactly what the Sunshine Summit is for, is because like I've made connections through a whole different bunch of places. Like everyone has different communities and different genre of content that they're making, and bringing them all together in 1 week to help showcase them and shine a light on them and share their story. So it's a melting pot. It's awesome.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, it's a big part of what I tried to do with the first summit was introduce as many people as I could to all of these other guests. And some of them were shows and hosts that I may or may not have talked about or may not have listened to. Like I hadn't listened to Better Podcasting. I'd heard the name, but I'd never listened to Better Podcasting before the first Sunshine Summit. And then I started listening to them and Steven and SP and did all of my little mini features on all of those different shows. And really that all came from the fact that they were guests on the summit. And I wanted to familiarize myself with all of the guests you were going to have on. And now it's kind of what we're doing right here in a much more, well, I can't say much more condensed because this is a full episode devoted to the topic, but you know, that's basically what we're doing here is we're telling everybody, you are telling them instead of me, because, you know, I'm sure everybody gets tired of my voice from time to time.
You're too hard on yourself, Adam. But then going back to that, when you did your review of Better Podcasting, they really appreciated what you said. Like I've said before, you always give very thoughtful reviews on things, and you listen and you take it in and you consider what you're going to share, and then you are sharing because sharing is caring, like you say. So
I'm trying to remember. It was a few weeks back where somebody commented on my review of their show and basically said that I described their show better than they could. I think it might have, I think it was Weird With You. I think that was it, with Justine and Santiago. And I think they were saying that I had described their show more thoroughly than they actually could. I was like, I guess that's what I do.
That's awesome.
Because it's one thing to read somebody's description of their show. It's another thing to have somebody kind of flesh it out. So that's what I do. That's what I try and do when I talk about somebody. And there's the whole, I share the good and the bad. And I remember you telling me for just this last review of the dirty bits that you kind of were shocked when I said my first reaction to Tawny's voice and the whole element of when you first start listening to that show, if you don't know she's doing a character, it can be very off-putting. But once you realize that it's all for show, then, and I think if you look at the description of the show, it says is performed by Tawny Plattis, a professional voice actor.
Yeah.
Which should be a good hint that it's a character. It doesn't say hosted by, it's performed by, because even she says she's an actor. She works from a script. She can't improvise. So it's a big performance for her. But that, like I said, I share the good and the bad. And if I have a questionable feeling, I share it. I don't sit there and rip into somebody, and I don't generally talk about someone or something if it's going to be predominantly negative, because that's just rude. But yeah, it's that whole thing. It's like,
you're constructive. It's like useful, valuable, honest. It's not fluff, and it's something that it is actually thought through.
Yeah, there are some negatives I have about a show. I'll share them. Again, I'm not going to sit there and rip into you like, oh my God, this is awful. Don't listen to this. Like, I'm not going to talk about it if I don't recommend it. That's why it's called a recommended listening. But yeah, it's, again, you got to, because nothing's perfect. Everybody's got flaws, especially me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, God, I don't want somebody to talk about this show. I'm too chaotic. But yeah, it's all of those, but it's all connections, and all of these shows and all of these people that I've connected with just by listening to their shows and talking about their shows. And again, all of these shows that I've now connected with through you and through the Sunshine Summit for the last two, and now, covering them all And again, the whole, I know more of these people than than I thought I did. But
so there we go. We've made you've sort of developed the connection. You realize that you are aware of them, and then you'll get to know them a little bit better, maybe. Exactly.
Like I said, I'm familiar with Wynn. I'm familiar with Stephanie and Jim, but I haven't done, I'm not too deep into them. I don't know too much about them. And so I'm eager to see and hear more from them come March. But moving on.
After Wynn, we've got Mark Diaz, and he is the host of Mark's Movie Collection. And I met him through the Podcastage Discord. So I've made a lot of connections through that community, which is really awesome. And Mark, in the little blurb that I've written about him on the Sunshine Summit, I took from his website because he's kind of, he describes himself as an IT guy dad and generally poor nerd. That's in quotes. And he loves movies. He's got a movie collection. He talks about them. But I love the way that he goes through the movies and shares his thought. Like, he'll go and watch the movie, then he'll come back and talk about it. And he makes connections with the themes and the way they've made the movies and everything. And it's really interesting. So, yeah. Looking forward to sharing his connections with films because, like, I love watching movies. So.
Yeah, I'm a movie nerd too, and that's kind of part of what drew me to something like the Epic Film Guys and a lot of the other. There's so many movie podcasts out there that if you search movie podcasts, it's really hard to dial one in and really. There is a sea of movie podcasters out there, and so when you find one that you really click with and you stick with them,
yeah. And when you get to know people through other communities, you're not really sort of seeking them out for their content perhaps, but then you find that they do something. And of course, because you've got to know them, you're probably going to check it out because you want to support what they're doing. So there's different ways of kind of getting through those layers of all of the movie podcasts, for example.
Yeah, exactly. And another one of those connections that I actually had made, again, through you and through the August Sunshine Summit was actually, Luke from Luke Who's Talking, which he hadn't even launched. I don't think he'd even launched that show yet at the time. I don't remember I think he just launched that show at the time.
Just launched, I think. Just launched. Yeah.
But I knew him through your Discord server. And so I was like, oh, Luke's got a show and it's punny as hell. And so I remember when I talked about it, that it's basically like what I do, but much more concise. He has this thing called brevity, and I have no clue what that is, but but yeah, again, all the connections that are made through you, because you are the master of connections.
I don't know about that. I have this thing where I'm not so much anymore. I found it quite hard to be in awe of the places all the time, and I've talked about that, I think, on either my chat with Emily that I had for my podcast or during the summit at points. We've talked about how it's important to find a community that you feel like you want to be a part of, that you feel safe and happy to participate there. But then when you join a bunch of them, it's hard to be involved in all of them. And it's like, wherever I go, though, I kind of like to connect with people and introduce myself. And that's hard. That's hard being like that. But I don't necessarily like lurking either. So if I'm not going to be in a group, I'll sort of not actually be there. Like I chime in when I can and have had these opportunities to meet people in a bunch of different places. So yeah, that was weird. A weird way of describing it. Sorry.
I mean, it just kind of amounts to, you got to find where you fit in and where you're comfortable with. But if you try to be in all the places, you're not going to be in any of the places sufficiently, and you're really not going to get anything out of it. And I know I'm in a million different groups, but I realistically interact with 2 or 3. And one of the big ones that I probably will interact with directly the most is actually your Discord server. But it's also a very tight group of very friendly people.
Yeah.
Your Discord server, not a lot of people there. Those that are around Ducky and Luke and SP and Eldest, and to a certain degree, Paul and Chris. Like, we all kind of chime in here and there, and we're all fun and friendly and just have a good time. But it's a comfortable little tight group of people there. It's really cool. Yeah.
It's amazing that they're all a part of it. My Discord server isn't like a super active place. It's just a place for the community to get together. And I think along the journey, like, you can meet people from all over this. I met some of them through the Podcastage one. I met some through Underdog Podcast Community, and Susie is in Lady Pod Squad and stuff like that. And it's awesome when they can sort of get together in a smaller group and have those more engagement, I guess, because it's not sort of everything happening in a bigger group. But yeah, along the way, I make connections wherever I go, I guess, and that's kind of where the ray of sunshine thing comes from. Plus my optimism, I guess.
Yeah. See, if nothing else, you try to be positive and optimistic. Like, I mean, not saying you're faking it, but saying that, sometimes you're not always feeling like a ray of sunshine. It's called being human, but you at least try to have that positivity as much as you can. And it's kind of one of those things where they say that you make your attitude. One of the few things that you can control completely is how you react to something. So if you're having a rough day and things aren't going right, you determine how you react to that. You determine, am I going to be frustrated by this, or am I going to see this difficulty as an opportunity for growth, or as a learning thing, or hey, okay, that happened, let's get past it. Or are you going to sit there and dwell and bum out over it? You shape that. And even when things are down, and you have had some downs in the last few years, but you try to keep positive. I mean, that's the best you can do. You got to try. So,
keep letting the light in so you can shine bright.
Yes.
And then the next person after Mark that we're going to shine bright with is Adela Mizrachi from Podcast Brunch Club. And this is cool because I am the host of the Wellington chapter in New Zealand of Podcast Brunch Club. And I found it because Emily Prokop posted a picture that she was off to Brunch Club, Podcast Brunch Club.
And I think she's the admin for the Connecticut. I don't know if it's just Connecticut or her whole Northeast region she's in. But I think she's the admin for that branch of the Podcast Brunch Club. And so I kind of see, especially she posts up a lot of like when she's prepping for those meetups on her Instagram.
Yeah. And I saw that and I thought that's such a fun way to have a meetup because there isn't podcast meetups here in New Zealand. And this one is meeting with other podcast listeners. So it's different from if I was being able to have the opportunity to meet up with other podcast hosts, which I would really like to do. But I signed up on the website with Podcast Brunch Club and obviously got to talk to Adela before we went ahead. And then she did a guest spot on International Podcast Day 2017, which I caught. And hers was kind of on connections then. And because we've got this connection to podcasts and the Podcast Brunch Club, I was very keen to ask her and she gratefully said yes.
And actually, I think she'd actually reached out to me because there was around that same time a big movement to start one out here in Phoenix because there is a pretty good size podcast community in Phoenix, as I'm learning. But it's one of those things where the area is so big that the people out here determined we needed to have 2 chapters because just the Phoenix metro area is so big. There was a good half of them that were on one side of the valley and then a lot of us over here on the west side of the valley. And it reached out to me to be the admin for a West Valley chapter. And I was like, I don't have that type of time commitment. Like as much as I would like to be part of it.
Yeah.
I just don't have the time to commit to it. And so there is, as far as I know, not a West Valley chapter, but I know there is still one way off on the east side. And there's a few people I know that are in there. So maybe someday I'll be able to step up and start that one.
That would be cool. That would be so cool.
Moving on, we have, I think next up is actually Nick. And
we've talked about what Nick's going to be talking about and connections with Nick from last year. So yeah, really looking forward to that one too.
On the 15th, we have
Dean and Nath from Region E Racing, and they are fellow Kiwis. So back in March 2018, I had Gillian Holder, who was my friend from New Zealand, who she's like a business mentoring success coach kind of thing. And she also was doing some health coaching training. And I was excited to have her on then, and then meeting or getting to know that there was another podcaster in New Zealand. Like, exciting. I was way too excited. I think I was following the podcastage Twitter feed for some reason, and I saw that Dean had commented about a microphone option. And of course, I chimed in with the Q2U that you and I use because Q2U hype. And so I tagged on that, and I found their profile page and found out that they were from New Zealand. So I got really excited and kind of, yeah, that's where that connection came from. But I got to meet Dean in person.
Which is cool. Because I have yet to meet another podcaster in person, even though I know for a fact that there are two that live with about 5 minutes away from me that I'm friends with. Haven't met them in person. Look, hey Mike, one of the things is also because of work schedules and stuff like that. And be like, hey, you want to come out to the food truck festival? Like, dude, I'm going to be at work in like 30 minutes. So just one of those sort of things. Like, circumstances are what they are, but it is kind of funny that when you find somebody that is actually close to you, that you're like, really? You've been here the whole time? Like, why am I just finding this out now? You know, but it's cool that you actually got to meet them, and now they get to be part of the summit this time.
Well, yeah, Dean actually, they both live in the South Island, so they don't live close to me, which is even more awesome that it worked out because Dean was up in the North Island for work. So on his lunch break, I went down and we had lunch and met each other and talked about stuff, and he still wants to be a part of the Sunshine Summit, so that's a bonus.
I can't see why meeting you would make them not want to be a part of it. That seems kind of backwards. Like I said before, everybody loves you. That's why they do this.
Do you have a feeling, though, that, like, I love the opportunity that the internet offers to be able to make all these connections all around the world, and then actually meeting someone in person is a little bit different because you're right there with them. And I would love more of that to happen. Like, meetups are something that I'm excited for, but it just, you have a little bit of more possible anxiety, or just you hope it goes well because you're going to be there right there in person. Yeah.
The introvert is strong, and that makes it difficult for things like this.
Yeah.
I mean, even with, the first time I talked to you, I'm comfortable now, but I remember the first time, our first chat was, we had a couple before the first summit just to get through nerves because it was such a big thing. I was like, oh my God, we're actually getting to, talk, and it's crazy. And it's the same thing. Like, there are other podcast friends of mine that I've known for longer that never actually had a direct conversation with. Like, I've known Emily Prokop for almost 3 years now and never actually had a direct, like, live conversation with her. Lots of text chat, but even working with her, but never actually had like a live conversation with her. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it is funny. I'm grateful that we can do it like this because I can't meet up with you unless I get to the States somehow. But yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking. Text is kind of, you have time to think about what you want to say and you can type it out.
And then you go back and erase it and retype it and erase it. And it's like, no, that's going to come off wrong. You're going to think I'm mad.
Yeah.
But you are mad. They don't want to know that.
And then there are GIFs, and you're really good at the GIF game.
Yep. And then we just start playing Yeah, that's just always fun. It's like I always say, picture is worth 1,000 words. So, a GIF is worth like 10 million. It's a motion
There's
picture.
so much in a GIF. Yeah. Just going back to Dean and Nath, Dean is also creating a new podcast called Either or Neither. And I'm excited for that one because it's going to be, there's lots of questions. Would you choose either this or that or neither? And yeah.
And I think they just reached out to me about something the other day too, actually. And I think it was when I put out a post about if you could pick one podcast to suggest to somebody, what would it be? A lot of people are like, that's too hard. I don't know. I can't pick just one. I'm like, that's the point. I want to know, what is your OMG podcast? You're going to squeal and tell them, oh my God, you have to listen to this. That's the one I want. And in part, I told him, it's like, I'm kind of fishing for recommendations here for shows to listen to feature on the show myself. He's like, I don't want your, hey, this is pretty good, you should check it out. It's like, I want your, dude, you have to be listening to this. So.
Why are you not listening to this already? Where have you been?
Why are you not listening to this? Why are you not listening to Sunshine and Powercuts? Are you, which I've told people, I've said it on the show before. It's like, why are you not listening to Sunshine and Powercuts? Why are you not listening to Varmints or Story Behind? Like, why are you not listening to these shows? Like, you don't have to be a history person. You don't have to be you could be like me. I'm a dick. I still listen to you. And it's like my little rage monster, completely counterintuitive to being a fan of yours and being friends with you. But
yeah,
somehow we make this work. But
yeah,
but that's also I'm weird and eclectic that way. But yeah, you've got to listen to the things. You must listen to these people. I will say it again. But that's why you're here, because you out there in internet land, you must be listening to Sunshine and Powercuts, and you must be checking out all of these other people in the Sunshine Summit. Speaking of, we've still got a couple more to go.
We're on to finale day.
After Dean and Nath, we have Chris Osborne Play Comics and Meddling Kids, which I've talked about, and Chris was just here last month. And finally, we have Trisha and Sienna from Two Girls on a Bench.
Yeah, and they just celebrated their first podversary.
Woo! Yay!
Yay! So, yeah. They've got an incredible way of bringing in their community. So they call them benchlings, and they're two girls on a bench. They sit on a bench, they write on a bench, they procrastinate on a bench is kind of how they describe it. And what is amazing about them is I have a registration form. So if anyone is interested and wants to be a guest on a future summit, I will just mention this here because they filled in my registration form. I asked them if they could test it for me. I had already, Lisa and Sam from I Shake My Head with Lisa and Sam actually recommended them in a Twitter thread, which was awesome. And they were on my list of potential people to reach out to anyway. And I said, I would love to have you on. Would you be able to test this registration of interest form that I've just created for me? And the amount of detail that they went into to fill it out was amazing. They were so thorough and detailed in how they did it. And maybe that's because they're writers or whatever. But then I listened to their first podversary episode that they just released recently. And apparently they'd wanted to be a part of it since last year when they saw me on live stream The Cure. So I didn't know that. That was an incredible connection to learn about, that they'd connected with me way back then. I was aware of them through Lady Pod Squad and various things, but just that they were keen to be a part of it, and they put the effort into putting in that detail, and the registration thing was amazing. So
I've heard their name thrown around a lot. They're part of the Podfix network, along with Lisa and Sam from I Shake My Head are part of them also. And I've heard Two Girls on a Bench. I've heard that show name thrown around a lot with a lot of other Podfix shows like MGT, but I hadn't listened to them yet. And I started listening to them last week I was going through some of the shows for the summit guests, and it was like, hey, it was like Two Girls on a Bench. That's another name that I get here thrown around a lot, and they're going to be on the summit. I need to listen to them and see what's up with these girls, and let's check them out. And so I did. And it's definitely another kind of like me, where they're a little all over the place in lots of different segments. Mm-hmm. And I get a little crazy with I need to listen to a few of these to really follow it. But I like their prompt that they do, where they kind of just start a writing prompt and then tell everybody, hey, okay, you finished the story. What's it? I think like 6 sentences or whatever it is. I haven't listened to enough to figure out all the details of this thing, and listening to these people's stories that they're sending in for this simple, like, 1 sentence writing prompt that they give. Like, whoa. Like, their listeners are committed and they're much better writers than me.
Yeah. The engagement is amazing.
I was like, I wish I could write like that. I can't write like that. That's why I improv everything, because I can't write. I'm the exact opposite of Tawny. I can't write. I improv. She can't improv. I write. Or right. Yeah, one of those. Confusion. Somewhere in there was an appropriate combination of those words in the correct order. But yeah, it's a cool show, and it's definitely if you're into that at all, and it's a cool show to listen to and hear. Kind of, they're like picking each other's brains, basically. It's like, oh, you're going to pick their brains. Like, they get to do that for each other.
I love that Lisa and Sam recommended them, and they are part of the Podfix network together. So they're both on that network, which is awesome. And then the Bench Write Club is what you were talking about with the writing prompt. And yeah, I think the way they've been able to get engagement with their audience is awesome. And so, yeah, really looking forward to discussing that.
Yeah. And then, they're another example of, like you said, their ability to engage with their audience is amazing. I wish I had that kind of engagement. It's like, I don't even get hate mail, man. I'd settle for hate mail. But what do they say? You haven't really made it until...
I did tell you that you were a funny fellow. I didn't use the other F word that you used, but...
But I think it's... What do they say? You haven't really made it until you've gotten your first 1-star review. Yeah, it's like, you're a true podcaster when you get your first hate mail. I was like, it's like, nobody cares enough about me to send me hate mail.
Oh, dear.
Yay, self-deprecating humor. Woo. But that's what I do. If I can't make fun of myself, who else is going to? But we've got there's so many guests. And again, it's running from March
9th to the 16th. Yeah, or 10th to the 17th if you're in a time zone close to New Zealand.
On the other side of the international dateline. And so, yeah, you need to check it all out. I'll check all of them out. Again, at sunshinesummit.live. I've said it a few times. You should be writing this down. Of course, it's in the show notes. Because, that should be like podcaster bingo that Emily's done a few times. But yeah, it's in the show notes.
Do you want an inside scoop?
Sure.
Do you want an inside scoop? There will be a bingo for the Sunshine Summit.
Oh, jeez. I think in past summits, mentioning my name was probably the center square.
Yeah. This one is just a bingo card to see how many streams you can make it to for the week. So it was a little bit hard to narrow it down to be able to pull a card for each person, for each one. So it's more that people were checking off how many they participated in last year. So I went with that for bingo.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
It's like more incentive to catch them all live.
Hopefully.
Normally, this would be the part where I would ask you for a podcast recommendation, but we basically just did that for an hour.
Yeah, I recommended 11 of them.
Exactly. We don't need any more of that. But go to sunshinesummit.live, look up all of these shows and Ducky's streams and Podcast Brunch Club and find if there's a chapter near you. There might be. There's a bunch of them.
That's a good plan.
Look into all of these things because you've got a couple of weeks until the Sunshine Summit, and it helps to be aware of who they are, at least fundamentally, and then you can learn more about all of these awesome people in March. So, do you have any parting words for my dear listener, Paul? It's just Paul.
Love you, Paul. No, thank you for listening, and thank you so much for having me today, Adam, again, for all your support of the Sunshine Summit and everything. It's been amazing. It's been really cool to be able to talk to you about it today.
Thank you again. Thank you for coming back on, especially so quickly. Granted, it was 3 months ago, but I don't care. It's always fun. I'll have you on every month. I don't care. But
your listeners might.
I'm planning on, because I realized that only having one guest a month, that's 12 guests a year. I have more podcast friends that I want to talk to than that. I'm looking forward to Sunshine Summit stuff. I'm looking forward to more guests, and I'm planning to do more guests. It's more work, but it's fun, and it's less on me having to come up with a lot of recommendations and reviews and things like that. I can mildly pawn this off on you guys, but no, I can have you. I can see what other people think besides me, and that's one of the most fun parts of having guests on here is getting another perspective on things and other people's podcast recommendations, and just having fun talking to my podcast friends. So thank you again for coming on.
Yeah. #celebrate connections. That's what that is.
Yes, exactly. That is almost exactly what I do with my guests. I just do this in a much more stretched out form. You do it in a week. It's going to take me a year. And it's about the same number of people. But really, it's it's about 12 people in a year. You've got about 11, 12 people in a week. You're much more ambitious than I am.
Yeah. No, but I'm really proud of you of where you've come. Since I've known you since 2017, you've come a long way with reaching out to people and doing things and trying new things. And yeah, it's just awesome to see.
You.
So you're doing a great job. And it's always fun listening to your guest spots, but also your podcast.
And all of my ranty raginess, which again, makes no sense why you listen to me. But again, you ray of sunshine, me tiny little rage monster. But mild insanity aside, thank you again for coming on. Where can the dear listener, Paul, find you? I'm just going to keep doing that. I'm just going to keep, I know Paul's listening. Past that, it's bots. It's Paul, Chris, and a bunch of bots.
Hey, oh no. Well, everybody else, thank you for listening. But you can find me on sunshineandpowercuts.com, on Twitter and Instagram at sunpowerpod. I'm on Facebook at Sunshine and Powercuts, and on the Geeks Rising Network at geeksrising.com.
Awesome. That is awesome. All of the places. And of course, I will have the links to the Sunshine Summit and all of the past Sunshine Summit stuff, because I don't know whether or not I'm going to forward that page on the website or not. At odddadoutpodcast.com. You can find me at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at OddDadOut. It's still called the Twisted World of the Odd Dad Out for the time being. If you want to join the group, or if you feel like actually sending me hate mail and making me feel like I've accomplished something, you can hit me up, show at odddadoutpodcast.com. Yay, self-deprecating humor. This is going to be a fun one. It's always fun to have you around. That's all it is. I just love having you on. Awesome. And I'm probably going to have you on here more times than anybody else. I'd say I'd have to send you a shirt just for you've been a guest of the year. That's another thing. Anybody else want to be a guest? hit me up. I already gave you the email. Rewind it a few seconds. I'm being lazy. But anyway, that is it for me for this week. Thank you so much. I already gave you the spiel. So until next week, oddballs, thank you and good night.